can call me Mystic Mike because I predict these things.
Magomed Ankalaev takes on Alex Pereira this Saturday is the headline of UFC 320. This is a rematch between these two guys. Their initial fight that took place back in March, where Pereira lost by unanimous decision to Ankalaev. Been a lot of discussion about this fight heading into it. Seems like a lot of people think that Pereira is washed. They think that he's getting up there in age, gonna lose this fight to Ankalaev pretty convincingly. A lot of people saying that Ankalaev's in his head. You see all these videos on YouTube. Everybody's talking about this confrontation that these two had at I think it was the UFC PI, and how Ankalaev's kind of in his head and everything. But I find that hard to believe. I find it hard to believe that anybody's gonna get into Pereira's head. I just don't think that's what's going on right now. I think he's just playing it cool, not really trying to make a big deal out of it. He does seem pretty upset about a few things, which is good. Having that fire going into this rematch in a fight that he didn't look the greatest. And I think we can all agree that he didn't look himself in that fight. There's been a lot of rumors about going into it with an injured hand, which I'll get into, fighting off the norovirus week of, or with whatever in his camp, which kind of threw a wrench into his plans in that fight. But I think all things considered, I think he had a decent performance. Definitely wasn't his best. Definitely not what we're used to seeing from him. And I still think in that fight, I rewatched that fight a few times. I think that it was 2-2 going into round 5, maybe 3-1 Ankalaev, depending on how you scored round 3. And then I felt like round 5 was a really close round as well. And you can argue that Pereira won that. So definitely didn't look like Pereira. Kind of looked pretty tentative on the back foot. Didn't really look like he had the confidence to engage in that fight. Wasn't throwing a lot of right hands, honestly, and that's why I think that he did have a hurt right hand. But all in all, I thought it was a much closer fight than and a much better fight than people were giving it credit for. So I am going to go with Alex Pereira in this one. I feel like, like I said, people are overlooking him, thinking he's washed. 38 years old, taking a lot of damage in his career, been fighting for a long time. But it's just crazy to me that people are kind of counting him out in this. But before that last fight, he was the boogeyman of the division, one of the most active, dangerous guys in the UFC, kind of the UFC's moneymaker at the time. He has a bad night out, and everybody's kind of saying, oh, he's just not who we thought he was, or he's done, which is just crazy to me, because it's not like he got put out. It's not like the loss was awful. He did get hurt in that fight, but I just felt like he went into it compromised and didn't have all of his tools heading into it. So, and again, Ankalaev, he might come out better. He was fighting in Ramadan, which, I've never fasted like that or anything, but I can imagine that would have some, cause you some difficulties that he's not going to have to deal with in this fight. But I am going to go with Alex Pereira. I just don't think he looked like himself. Like I said, rumors were he was dealing with a hand injury, and I counted in that fight how many hard right hands that he threw, like the ones that we're used to seeing him throw, in his fight against Khalil Rountree. I could count on maybe one hand how many I saw that he was actually throwing with bad intentions, as if it wasn't injured. Fighting off an illness in camp, supposedly. Don't really have any proof of that, other than that he just didn't look like himself. He did look like he was starting to tire out in that fight more than he usually does. He just didn't seem like he had his right hand in any time in that fight. You look at the stats for that fight, and I might put these screenshots up, I might not, but 11 shots to the head over a 5-round fight that he landed on Ankalaev. You look back through his career, 92 shots to the head against Khalil Rountree over a 5-round fight. He landed 21 to Jiří Procházka, 24 to Jamal Hill, and then 30 in his first fight with Jiří Procházka, and all those fights didn't go past the second round. So landing 3 times the head strikes in those fights. And you could argue that maybe he was a little bit more tentative, didn't want to open up as much, just because Ankalaev is super dangerous. He can counter, he can shoot under and get takedowns, but I just find it weird that over 5 rounds he's only landing 11 strikes to the head, and that includes kicks. So I just feel like he was pawing with the jab, but he was never really unleashing with the right hand at any time in that fight. When Ankalaev starts getting forward, starts throwing, Pereira's not using the right hand to really interrupt the combo or threaten back to Ankalaev to kind of get him off of him. And you could see at the very end of round 3, Ankalaev throws a right head kick, or a left head kick, that Pereira blocks with his right arm. Doesn't land by any means, but it right after that happened, the bell ring, and you could see him looking at his right hand, kind of like shaking it out as if it was already damaged, and he was just, out of instinct, kind of looking at his hand, that you'll see guys do in fights when their right hand is injured. So I think Pereira, he definitely wasn't pushing forward like he normally does. You see in like the Khalil Rountree fights, a lot of his other fights, he's usually the one being aggressive and putting guys on the back foot. And you would think that would be his strategy against Ankalaev, is to crowd him, get him moving backwards, fighting off the back foot. That way he he doesn't have the ability to shoot as effectively as he would want to. And I just don't think that he had the ability or the confidence to do that, because he only had a left hand in that fight in his leg kicks. And Ank was just kind of able to push him back for the majority of that fight. Pereira seemed to be kind of hesitating the entire time, and I think the commentators were trying to say, or they're trying to allude to, is just like it was out of fear or respect of what was coming his way from Ankalaev. And it could be, Ankalaev's a dangerous guy, probably the best guy that he's faced, one of the best 205ers that we have in the division, but I think it was more Pereira just being kind of defensively responsible, because he didn't want to put himself in a bad situation. He didn't really have all the tools necessary to kind of get his offense going, or to really put up decent defense if he got into a firefight or into a risky spot in the pocket with Ankalaev. I just felt like he didn't really want to put himself in a precarious position where he couldn't rely on his right hand and all of his tools to get out of it or to get respect. So I think that Pereira, just given his performance, I think that he was compromised and didn't look his best, had an off night. But if he was able to defend all the takedowns in that fight, I think it was 12 total takedowns that he was able to defend. He did get controlled against the cage in round 4. Just looking the way he did, I think that he'll have a lot of confidence going into this fight to maybe open up a little bit more, not be concerned so much of the takedown threat of Ankalaev, who does get a lot of his takedowns from the clinch, which is where Pereira's pretty strong. I feel like Ankalaev is more of like a Greco type of guy. He's looking for, takedowns from the clinch and underhooks, things like that, and Pereira's very strong there. He's a very big dude, very tall. From his kickboxing days, has a lot of, strength in the hips and ability from the clinch. So I think this will give him even more confidence in this fight to be able to defend those takedowns. I think he'll do a much better job of landing the leg kicks against Ankalaev. I think that's one of his pathways to victory. We've seen Ankalaev suffer to the leg kicks, even against Pereira, but also against Jan Blachowicz. We know that that's something that he could use effectively to kind of affect the movement of Ankalaev, not give him the explosivity to jump into range and land his shots, or to get the takedowns. I think Ankalaev, maybe he does better in the striking. Maybe he thinks that he can deal with the striking this time around. Having gone 5 rounds with Pereira in the first fight, didn't really take a lot of damage other than the calf kicks, kind of rocked him at one point in the fight. Maybe he commits more to his takedowns now that he's been in there and kind of knows he's had 5 rounds with Pereira, so he kind of knows what he's getting himself into. But I'm still going to go with Pereira. Just his ability to defend the takedowns, being compromised. I think he's going to be fully healthy, fully motivated to get back in there, get his belt back. He knows what he's going up against Ankalaev. So I'm going to go with Pereira in this one. I'm not willing to count him out yet. I think that the last fight didn't go his way, but I think he's going to come back healthier, have learned from that loss, and regain the title in this one. So let me know what you guys think. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the underdog on Pereira. I'm not willing to count him out just yet. So appreciate you guys watching. Thanks.